Morning, everyone. I'll just read out the official bits of information. Welcome, councillors, officers, and members of the public to the meeting of the Licensing and Community Safety Committee. Reminder: please switch your mobile phones to silent. There are members of the press attending today? No, just at the way. Right, okay, that's fine. Can I please ask those attending virtually to switch off your microphone and to avoid disrupting the meeting? The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the Council's YouTube channel. Reminding councillors to ensure that those attending virtually can hear the proceedings and for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember it's a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to councillors by their first names. There is no fire alarm planned, therefore, upon hearing the fire alarm, please leave the building by your nearest marked fire exit and assemble at the top of the car park. Please be aware that the contents displayed on your iPad or laptop may be seen by others or members of the public attending the meeting. Therefore, please close down screens which are displaying confidential information during the public part of meetings. Right, okay, let's move on to apologies for absence, please.
Received apologies from councillors Clayton, Maddox and Spear, and councillors Maskell and Milton are attending but attending remotely, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of April 2026. Do I have a proposer? Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour of approval? Everyone? Please. Item 3, items brought forward which in the opinion of the chair should be considered by the meeting as a matter of urgency. Nothing's been brought to my attention. So moving on. Declarations of interest.
I've received none, Chair.
Okay, that's thank you. Item 5, to agree the agenda between Part A and Part B. So we have no Part B, so carrying on. Okay, item 6, consideration of any objections to the Hackney Carriage fare tariff, pages 9 to 14, report by lead officer, commercial regulation.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, to confirm there's been no representations to the tariff, which was advertised in the North Devon Gazette subsequent to our last meeting. And as such, the amended fares come into effect at the date of the close of that advert, rather than us having to set a date to consider those representations. So we've now started to work on the new tariff. I've instructed communications to put that onto our website along with the new customer information sheet, which sets out some example journeys for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 and 15 miles to give passengers an idea of the type of fare they would be expecting, rather than them having to look at the tariff and make that calculation. So that's now online, and the meter agents will be informed of the changes, and then what we will be doing is setting up a system on our website to facilitate meter tests. So all the vehicles that want that want their meters updated with the new tariff will then come in to our half-mile measured mile here at Brinsworthy, and we make a charge for doing a meter test of £29. They can update the chip in the meter and we'll do that test for them. So communication will be going out to the trade very shortly in respect of the process. We've previously used a booking in system called Book That In that manages it, so we can do an electronic booking, which worked quite well previously. So we're intending to do that again, because we've had quite a significant bulk to get through. Everyone wants to make those changes to the meters.
Thank you very much.
Did you say a date when it comes in?
Yeah, it comes into effect on the 7th of May. Yes, just so as soon as that advert closes, that tariff is effective.
Right.
So that if they can then go to their meter agents.
We could be.
Yeah,
it's legal for them to do that. That's
yeah.
Lovely. That's that item. On that one.
Yeah, thank you. If I could be excused for
You may.
Sit next to you. I could never show it this morning.
You take care.
Right there, item 7, community safety updates from our crime safety partnership officer, Tim.
I've got two items to speak on today. One around the changes in police engagement with both the CSP and the wider council. And then secondly, I just want to mention the upcoming PSPO consultation that will be in place later this year. So firstly, we had a letter on behalf of Emma Butler Jones, who's the police, give her full title, right. Police commander, local police commander, sent by Lee Groves, who's another officer on her behalf, around the changes that the police are making with regards to their engagement with our council. Now, the committee will probably be aware that we've had a long-standing partnership with the police, mainly in the community safety partnership, but also we've had police officers embedded in the council offices here. And previously in Civic Centre, we had police officers there as well. And not just in the office, but the police have been really helpful in terms of antisocial behaviour and all those kinds of joint partnership work and stuff that we do, particularly during the PSP, CSP. So, but however, they are now changing their structure. We had you remember Kevin, Sergeant Connor, and latterly Sergeant Money, who came to the last meeting. They were dedicated community safety partnership sergeants. So I'll read from this letter. A decision has now been made to change this role of community safety sergeant to a child-centred policing sergeant. And the ASB officer, that's Lucy, if you might have seen her around the office, will return to the Barnstable neighbourhood policing sector. So there's quite a significant change in terms of those roles. Instead, what we will then be doing is liaising and engaging with the local, and again, let me get this right, sector basis. So that will be, from our point of view, Barnstable sector, led by Inspector Andy Wills. It would be the Ilfracombe and wider Northern Devon sector, led by Inspector Joey Lester. And let me just get this one right before stealing away. And then obviously the Torres sector, which is by a man called Ewan Sear. So we will definitely still have some joint working opportunities and do a lot of joint work with the police, but that dedicated resource that we've enjoyed in this meeting, for one example, it will be going, which is, I think, unfortunate. So yeah, so that's kind of the and I think this is happening as of now, really. So we haven't got a police officer here today.
Have they given a reason why they're changing it? Why they're not sending someone to do
Let me just
what you
read
just said?
what they say, so we're clear. The National Police, it's a bit lengthy, but I'll read it anyway. The National Police Chiefs Council strategy on children and young people has given clear direction to all police forces on how to embrace child-centred policing in the future. It's an exciting opportunity for police forces to focus resources and attention on this group, as too many children and young people remain blighted by crime, whether as victims or offenders. After a lengthy review by Devon Cornwall Police, a decision has been made to change the role of community safety sergeant to a child-centred policing sergeant, and the ASB officer will return to the Barnstable neighbourhood policing team. So again, that focus on child-centred policing is really the reason given. I guess that the other bits and bobs that the CSP sergeant did will then go over to the neighbourhood team, and it will remain to be seen how our relationship is affected by that, I think.
I think that's a shame. That's a feeling.
Yeah, no, and obviously disappointing and back to the normal, back the resource, doesn't it? And argue that that protecting and looking after children is not probably the most vital thing they do. But the reality is they were obviously doing really valuable work in the partnership. So yeah, I think it's disappointing because obviously they're trying to make their limited resources where the priority is. Something that ultimately will suffer because of it. So I still didn't know what to say, but I do think perhaps we ought to write back to the Emma Butler Jones and possibly the police crime commissioner and the MP to declare an interest. But yeah, that outlining that this has happened and that impact that could have on some of our communities, because it has been really useful for us to be able to have that presence here when we're talking about ASB, whether it's in Ilfracombe, whether it be in Croydon, Instow, if we have times of the year. But obviously I think that part of that is really making sure that we have got that open communication. I mean, I'm not too bothered they're not sat in an office here. It would have been nice if they could have still given up an hour for our licensing committee and meeting a month, so that we can, and we've got that ability, and I'm sure we will. So I just think, I guess what I'm saying, thinking while I'm, I think really that request that they do at least attend every other licensing committee meeting, so that we have got that direct line of communication. And we know that. I mean, Joey Lester, for instance, over in Ilfracombe, which covers all of Ilfracombe, South Malton, a lot of the villages over that side, she's new and we wouldn't know her. So, just be useful to, put names to faces sometimes and build that relationship. So I think, really, Chair, put the ball in your court. I just think whether a suitable letter goes back, obviously thanking them for all they have done.
Chair, and also if we could just say maybe the results could also indicate that there's always been a support for our ASB officers. And so if they could ensure that the local police officers, I know that they do, can continue their support in the absence of a designated officer for community safety, in particular for ASB matters, that would be,
Yeah, do you mean in reference to the street marshals?
and Kate
Okay.
Moore,
Okay,
and Tim.
You can add that to my
Yeah.
recommendation if you like.
Yeah,
Chair,
yeah. I think you can happily do that.
I think
Yeah.
that as it stands, Lucy, the old TSP officer, is allowed or is able to help Kate in Barnstaple, because now she's part of the Barnstaple team. It's that wider bit outside of Barnstaple where Kate's in Ilfracombe today, for example, where she's not able to get that same support. I will just say though, I think it's fair to say that we have good relationships with the sector inspectors that we will be dealing with. So it's not completely new in terms of Andy Wills attends the particularly around the scrutiny meeting, and Joey Lester's new, so we're in a relationship with her. We're confident that will continue. It's just that dedicated resource really was just part of what the priorities now, I guess, and that's the bit that we're slightly concerned about.
I'd like to say that as the community facing officers, as we are, we go to our parish council meetings, and a lot of the stuff that came out of the officers coming to our meetings, I was actually taking back to my parish councils. And these are all things that they don't know about, and they're very interested. And I think it's a great shame that we're missing out on the communication that they were bringing to us.
Yeah.
I really do think it's a great shame. I've got 5 parishes and they're all very interested in exactly what we're talking about now. And what am I going to take to them?
And Tim will come to our meetings as usual and will update us.
Yeah.
So I think that information will come through Tim.
Well, I hope so,
Yeah.
because I think it's a great shame.
Yeah,
I
we
really
have
do.
the PFP meeting coming up next month, don't
Yeah,
we? Which we can feed back at the next
Yeah.
sitting of the
Okay.
committee. Okay.
I do wonder whether the people making decisions are not necessarily local and haven't necessarily seen what we see on a daily basis. And I wonder whether they've appreciated the help that we've had through the police, and maybe that might be something we could.
Well,
tell
it's
them about.
through you, Chair, it's a two-way thing as well. Because
Yeah.
Old Point Department, yes, we've had help from the police. Police have had an awful lot of help from us as well, because
Exactly.
you're working hand in glove, so you know, I think probably that we are a bit unique as an area, aren't we? But, you know, it's always a classic. I've seen in other places where we've been held up as the exemplar. Now, you know, so perhaps there should be, and maybe the letter can reflect that. You know, that actually, should you not be thinking this, you know, because especially as we move into a unitary model, where we will be responsible for children, whatever the new model is, we'll be responsible for children and young people. You know, one of the main complaints that I see is the amount of young people that are running around the town centres during the day, should be in school. You know, who's checking, you know, because are they safe and safeguarded? B, they are causing antisocial behaviour. So who is checking on that, dealing with it? And I think, you know, in a way, just seems mad. We're 9 months away from the new model. I would certainly hope that under the new model that they would be heavily involved. And the legal officer said, you know, you know, it is a two-way thing. So I think that police are likely to lose out on a lot of intelligence. And as Sue says, you know, we are those in every community, talking to parishes, talking to residents. You know, they're sort of missing out a bit. I think we can just try and make that letter supportive, but making it, you know, to those that are making these decisions, it seems like an easy way of saving a few quid.
It'd be interesting to know how they've come to that decision, whether it's based on resources or data or what it is they've used.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. The
Yeah.
fact that we are an outlier and we're not normal in terms of that. In the best possible way.
I see them referred to ourselves as not
Yeah, it's
normal.
not normal. Yeah, it's that
None of us are normal.
it maybe they've seen that as, you know, it doesn't fit in with their model. No, I don't know. One thing I will say though is that also it's clear that the police here will continue to help us with risk-based things. So any checks that we need to do around any potential visits and that kind of thing, they're happy to continue with that. So it's not, I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's not a breakdown in relationship by
No,
any means. It's just a little change.
Should be
Just
taken
slightly
above their heads.
Okay, we can write that letter. Is everyone happy for me to do that? Yeah. Okay.
And then very briefly, just this year, at the end of this year, it's time to update the PSPO for the last 3 years. So for people who aren't aware, there's the PSPOs, the ones we're talking about, the antisocial behaviour PSPOs in Barnstaple and Ilfracombe, which have 4 conditions, which forbids public urination, defecation, consumption of alcohol, measures to address that, aggressive begging, and allows for dispersal of groups, rowdy groups. So just.
Sorry, could you speak up slightly?
Oh, sorry. Yes. So
Like,
yeah.
we're all we're the old people in the room, and I'm hearing perhaps isn't that good.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm just saying that the current PSPOs in our town centres have got 4 conditions to forbid public urination and defecation, consumption of alcohol, aggressive begging, and it allows the dispersal of rowdy groups to outside of the town for a period of time. So I suppose the question what I'm asking today is that anyone's got any views on any other areas? I mean, everything has to be decided by evidence. It has to be evidence for a need. We've had evidence for the particular areas of Barnstaple and Ilfracombe. When we did it last time, we added 2 separate smaller areas. I think Wilton Gardens opposite the hospital and Portmarsh, where there were areas where there was antisocial behaviour in those 2 areas at that time. Luckily, it's died down, I think, because of the PSPO, partly because of the PSPO. Are there any other areas in Barnstaple and Ilfracombe that you see as potentially hotspots, I suppose, for one of the things?
Just getting, I mean, what you're saying is urinating, drinking, aggressive behaviour. Are these new powers that they have to arrest them or take them away or taser them or whatever. Have they got new powers to do this?
No, so-
Have they already got the powers and you're highlighting?
Already got the powers, but every year it has to be updated based on new evidence. So
Right,
the areas themselves have to be looked at again, and also there is.
Yeah, so the areas you said, Barnstable and Ilfracombe, so that's the whole of Ilfracombe, they've got the powers to
No,
intervene.
it's only seafront.
There are maps.
What's on the map, right, yeah.
And actually, when you look at Ilfracombe, it's quite a wide part of.
It is, I've seen them, I know
Yeah.
there, I'm just getting it in my head that they're not changing the areas, they're the ones, and just renewing, that should be there. And if we feel as though there's other hotspots, we add that to it.
Yeah, so for example, the previous PSPO didn't include the beaches, so it had up to the
Yeah.
beach.
Last summer,
Yeah.
that changed,
So they were added, so it's that process really.
right, and that, when until when will that?
Maybe 3 years from the end of the year, but we have to go through.
Years.
the process.
Right,
3 years.
Thank you.
We won't
I've
make
got it in my
a
head
decision,
now.
it goes to full council, I
Yeah,
think.
that's right,
Yeah.
It goes out to consultation.
Yeah. So do you consider the areas it currently covers are still going to be served by that PSPO, or do you think the borders could come in your opinion?
I can't imagine that
No.
necessarily come in. I think the
No.
difficulty though is the evidential, what they're asking for is evidence of the need, but of course, if it's doing its job.
Then you can't measure it, can you? Yeah, it's hard to measure.
We can get, I mean, that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't see them going smaller at all.
No, okay, fine then. Councillor Biederman, did you?
No,
have-
I think council, I didn't know if you saw councillor Williams. I was.
No, sorry, I didn't.
That's
Councillor
right, thank you. If I remember correctly, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, the area covered in Ilfracombe is mainly the seafront, isn't it?
No, it's, I mean, that's where the vast majority of the action is. if you like.
Does it also include the high street? That's
Yeah,
what I'm
it does,
asking.
very
It
much so.
does. Oh, that's the right
Yeah.
thing, because
Yeah,
that
if
was
you look at the
obviously, my main concern.
Yeah, there's a map on North Devon's website and it shows that Ilfracombe is pretty much all of Ilfracombe.
But you're, councillor Williams might be getting confused with the,
The dog one.
no, not the
No?
dog one,
Oh.
the non.
Drinking,
Drinking in public.
drinking in public.
No, the one on the quay with the
Where
business.
yes,
Yeah.
to stop all the maritime, the boat users.
Ticket sellers.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, the ticket fellas one. God, yeah, there's that one as well.
Yes, stop helping.
Yeah. No.
That's an exit, that's a separate.
That's a separate one.
Oh, yeah.
Right, okay.
So there's a PSPA for that.
Yeah.
There's also the antisocial behaviour PSPO, which is more.
Yeah.
Ilfracombe.
And then there's a district-wide one for
Dogs
dogs,
as well.
dog fouling
Yeah.
and Leeds.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Quinn?
Sorry, does this cover Bicklescombe Park?
I don't think it does, no.
Because we have had some issues with people in there, camping late at night or on
I
groups.
would have to look at the
I
map.
would like that to be thought about. Bicklescombe Park,
I'd have to look at the map.
please.
It's
And
not-
and if it's not,
Yeah.
then I suggest that it should be.
Could we ask that we're sent them out ourselves so that we're aware of it? Because,
Yeah.
is that possible?
It's on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website, is it?
Yeah,
I'll have to look on the website.
But I think that sort of covers the point I was just about to make, is that, yeah, I think it'd be useful that all members of circulate where the current areas are. So that they can understand. Tim, I'm guessing, like you say, it's got to be evidence led. So, I mean, this is a bit like double yellow lines, isn't it? You've never actually solved the problem, you move the problem.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a tricky old game, really. But so obviously that evidence will be there. So will you be viewing the evidence to where, problems have suddenly sprung up after last summer? They were doing it on the beach. This summer they're doing it on the cliffs.
Yeah,
Because obviously I think you do hold the data that you wouldn't necessarily see or be aware of.
Yeah.
And then second about that, how far out of Barnstable do you come? Because you sort of think of areas, I think me and Prue have spoken before about, the antisocial behaviour happens in our seaside resorts, places like Fremantle Quay in the summer months. Is there something we can do around that? I don't want to stop all young people having fun, but at the same time, I think we sort of accept it for a week when they just finish their exams and they want to have that party. The problem is now that we have it every weekend with social media, they can advertise these parties, and where it used to be just one weekend a year and we're all turn up the following morning, clear the litter up, all the rest of it. You know, just whether it should be.
Well, I was thinking about the nature of the restrictions really, and some thoughts of that really. It's clear.
Yeah, are they defecating? Are they urinating? Are they...
Yeah, I mean, they're on an isolated beach drinking a lot of alcohol. You know, I mean, I know what I'm like after, you know,
Yeah.
you know, Wetherspoons provides a challenge for me, never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, they do, don't they? Unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast, but. And laybys is the other thing. You get an awful lot of overnight camping there in laybys, you know, and they haven't got toilet facilities. So, you know.
So for it to be evidence-based, I think that you need to be saying to the committee what they need to be doing to collate the evidence to support the PSPOs.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, as I mentioned a moment ago, like a lot of you know, lots of the evidence, particularly in Barcelona, Ilfracombe, I'm guessing that other areas probably aren't as big hotspots, if you like. I mean, we talk about the big Friends of Key, Conserbeam, and yeah, there will be certain times of the year, and it's not.
No, it's not. I mean, it's a different type of ASP, I agree.
Yes, exactly.
But I mean, my worry always is the fact that, you know, when they're drinking a lot of alcohol next to the sea, while the tide's out, fall asleep, tide comes in, you know, is that sort of stuff that, you know, worries me really. Not, you know, there's a genuine safeguarding side of it as well, because it, you know, we all know how powerful water is, you know.
Well, maybe that's one of the things that the child-centred police ought to be looking at.
Yes.
And that's true.
I think also if you alert the police to those small pockets of time, they might make a
We do,
more
we do,
concerted
and
effort to go monitor that or
we
police
do,
it.
you know, there's like I say, we all know the main weekend. It used to be just one weekend. Back when we knew that the first weekend after the GCSEs finished, they'd all had to insto and have a blooming good party, and we almost sort of encouraged it. Or not encourage it, but you know, you were right. You know, probably the best moment in your life for a lot of young people at that point. So, but at the same time, like I say now, it's not just one weekend. It's, you know, all the time. You know.
Okay, Councillor Hayward-Fu.
We're waiting so long in there.
Matt, you've been waiting for
For long.
Take a vote of the order. Councillor Hayward-Fu.
Well, thank you. I've just got two quick questions. I was just wondering what the virtue of having maps, if that's what it is, because these behaviours, antisocial behaviour, wherever they take place, if you could just describe that for us, please. The other thing is, you referred to rowdy groups. Is that specifically groups? Because rowdy individuals can be just as irritating and you know, in need of being dealt with as groups.
I don't know that. Is it groups, Hannah?
Yeah, so the groups refer to groups of addicts or alcohol dependent groups that are an influence on each other. They congregate together, and together they can be difficult in terms of dealing with. So that's what the dispersal provision allows for. But it doesn't necessarily mean just that. It could be a group of youngsters, it could be a group of troublemakers.
But rowdy individuals would
Yeah.
need to be dealt with anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's what that means. And the earlier part of it,
Well, it's just
why
what's
is
the
that?
value of
I can
having
tell you that.
specific areas rather than, you know, a ski anywhere is a problem.
Because when you're in court and the magistrates or the bench need to have a boundary, so specifically in relation to a criminal behaviour order, or any kind of prosecution or application like that, it is essential that you're able to tell the defendant what is included and where they're not allowed to enter. So that's why we need boundaries that are clear.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn, you're next.
Started with you saying, do we have any areas we want to add to what there is already on the map? Is there a process of we can look at the map and go back and whenever it's next week and get in touch and say, I feel for my area, Ilfracombe West, we need that. And how does that process work? Can we get in touch with you and you consider it, discuss it with the police?
And then I guess we would look at gathering evidence for that. Evidence made for that area.
We need to what, sorry?
We would then
You
evidence for the need
and
for that
see
area.
if that's worthwhile adding that to what is already.
Yeah.
Fine.
Because it
Okay.
has to be proportional. Obviously, if there's nothing happening in that area, then
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's I say Bigscombe Cots. I know last year there was a number of reports of incidents, children being bullied, groups of people drunk, whatever, people staying overnight because they've moved on from the beaches, moved on
right for
whatever.
Wales.
So they've
Yeah.
gone inland or to Bigscombe Park. So I know that is a concern with people. So whether that's on the map or not, I can't remember. So that is a place, but I'll have another look as well. And then would we just get in touch with you
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
and say, this is what I think for my bit, you will think her bit, whatever, for Ilfracombe I'm talking about, and everyone else for their area. That's the process.
Can we? Yeah.
And is there a time span on that?
Well, no, because
Looked at and said, right, beginning of the season, let's do it.
we are the PSPOs renew at the end of this year, so we've got a while yet, but we just want to get ahead of the game because we need to go through the process. So
So this won't come in for this summer.
no,
Okay, that's fine.
no,
As long
that's
as they know, tell people.
no.
Yeah, things take a bit of time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maxwell, I'm not quite sure which camera to look at wherever you are.
Sorry, did you say me?
Yeah, sorry, I did.
Sorry, it's a bit not very good, the audio. I just wanted to go back to what Councillor Wiedemann was saying and agree with him that, you know, I do think the coastal areas in the summer months suffer from quite a lot of antisocial behaviour, especially around beaches and drinking and fires and rubbish. And I know, you know, it's not probably in the same league as perhaps having street drinking in Ilfracombe or whatever, but it still does impact on communities, and there seems to be very little policing of it. We had an incident a couple of years ago where a young person was so drunk and he'd got his head stuck through the chestnut paling on the sand dunes and was unconscious, and I think the Coast Guards managed to get him out, and then they had to sort of like, I think they ended up transporting him to hospital because there were no emergency services available, and he was in quite a bad way. And you know, I don't know, sometimes you think we're not considered because there's perhaps lots of money in these areas, and you know, it's a different type of antisocial behaviour. And the other point I just wanted to raise was, you know, lay-bys. I know that the lay-bys along Saunton are advertised. I was just trying to find the website. There is a sort of unofficial places where you can get away with camping website somewhere. Somebody did point it out to me, but I can't find it now. And it is advertised on there that you can stay at Saunton along the road. And during the summer months, I've driven early in the morning and counted. I think there are about 6 lay-bys along that stretch, and I have counted sort of 3 vans in each. And there's also someone that actually lives in a van along there, and yeah, he's not hurting anyone, but where do they go to the toilet? And if you look over the wall, the rubbish is unbelievable. So yeah, there are issues outside of the 2 main towns, and we do feel a bit neglected sometimes. Thank you.
I'm just wondering what we can do about that website. Could you send us, myself and Tim, the link to that website?
I try and find it. Somebody did show it to me once, and then I'll see if I can find it.
I think that the police, they may not be aware of that. And I don't know if who would enforce that. Would that be the police?
To be fair, the lay-bys is probably, like I say, it's a two-pronged thing really, because I think we probably do need to look at traffic regulation orders through the county council, don't we?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the littering and the, toileting and things like that would certainly fall in our bag.
It does smell awful. I mean, if you stop to look at the view, it smells terrible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Could I just add, when we're looking at the evidence to put this together, we will certainly look at North Devon as a whole. So we will look at incidents in all areas, particularly around the coast as well as the towns.
Right. Does anyone else have any questions for Tim? Right. Okay, Councillor Youssef.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. Tim, what about the new central car park, the motorbike races? I'm sure you're aware of that.
Yeah.
And it's getting really bad because I've been chasing police as well. And I saw that Wayne other day emailed to you about, the guest house there, and good number of residents live there, and the night time is often happening the same thing. And I since it's been opened, the central car park, and it's a completely new issue. It wasn't never before.
Yeah, that was discussed at our ASP steering group last week. And the police and the council are going to work together to see what we can put together to discourage that. There's been quite a lot of complaints around noise and vehicle noise from that.
Yeah, especially that there is a business guest house, and it's a serious concern to somebody's business, because if one customer or two customer, they can't sleep in the night, they give a bad review, and it's going to affect badly. So is something need to address more urgent than anything else. This is my thinking, understanding.
We know about those complaints from that particular premises, so yeah, it's being worked on.
Yeah, thank you.
And they can contact police, can't they? Ring the police.
Yeah, but people lost faith on the police. I'm being honest, so police is not very helpful.
Yeah,
so that's.
And presumably that area is covered under our CCTV.
Yeah, sorry. That's okay.
Yeah, the difficulty there is a sound. The CCTV doesn't have sound, and that's a bit of a problem when we're trying to evidence that, but I think it's been seen but not heard, so to speak.
Right. Did environmental health put some monitors there? Maybe.
I think that's
yeah, part of the measures. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
It'd be a shame. You obviously also got, as well as you got 36 and 37 Bagwell Street with the accommodation that's coming with that.
Yeah.
Back, so.
That's on, isn't it? Yeah.
Possibility putting traffic calming measures into the car park, so it's impossible to make as much noise as. But maybe that'll help, or maybe it's a combination of all these different things.
Councillor Maskell.
Yeah, sorry, I just listening to this conversation, I just was reminded that I was in the cattle market car park at about 9 o'clock a few weeks ago when it was still dark at that time of night, in my car with the engine running, just picking someone up, and I was actually approached by a man with a hood, came up to the car. I just cracked the window a tiny bit, and I think he thought I was selling something, but it was really quite scary. And he was, there were people sort of lurking around that car park. Yeah, I don't know what goes on there, but it was definitely quite unnerving as a woman on your own to be approached like that. And I had watched him go around a number of vehicles, so I don't think he was necessarily selling. I think perhaps he thought I was selling because I had my engine running. I don't know, but yeah, it was quite scary, and I don't know if the cattle market car park has much policing.
I think those kind of incidents that would always encourage a report to the police. Yeah. I think always.
Yes, I mean, it's during the day there are obviously wardens around that area,
Yeah.
because it's in the middle of the PSP.
Yeah.
But at 9 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't come to the public. What can you do? You know, just report it, and then we build a picture, don't we?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's without the reporting, we
Yeah.
don't have the
Yeah.
evidence that we can rely on.
No. Councillor Can.
Yes. Thank you, Chair. With regards to antisocial behaviour and groups, you will always get groups that congregate somewhere, and you know whatever you do, they're always going to like move from one place. So if they stop there, they're going to move it. You know, but it's more about the behaviour when they're in that group. So I fully get that. So it's the behaviour, not so much of the congregation of groups, because people will always do that. So I don't think you'll ever resolve, you'll move them from one area and then they'll end up in another. But my question was, how are the incidents reported for the police? Are they reported by members of the public? Where do they get their information from to make those the target areas, as in sort of Bicklescombe Park or the the harbour or whatever, or for us in Barnstable? Is it members of the public that are,
Well, it'll be
is that what's forming the picture?
Yeah, it'll be reports to the police and also reports to the council. So environmental health, that kind of noise complaints, that kind of thing. So they're the two predominant reporting places that we take the evidence from.
Yeah, so you get that. The other thing was, I was always given to believe that anybody, male-wise, that urinates in public, that could be deemed as exposure, and they could end up, if it did get taken to court, they could end up on the sex offenders records. Is that still the case? Because if that's the case, should we not be putting that out, that anybody that does urinate in a doorway, whatever, they are committing an offence which is down to exposure, and whether that could be looked in, and that's the way around it. It was always known to be that they could end up, if they were caught, on the sex offenders list register.
Chair. It depends on the circumstances, Councillor Can, so you can't really uniformly say that.
Okay.
It would, and it's not just men, I'm afraid. We've had a couple of prosecutions of women, so in public places. So I think you would have a difficulty in wording in that in an appropriate way, and to make the association with that kind of offence probably isn't appropriate in that area of the PSPO, where we are attempting to control and put in significant measures, and
But surely if a male exposes himself, that is and if I'm walking past,
It's a bit different to being in the middle of Barnstable High Street.
I know, but it was still, as far as I can go back, saying it was an offence.
that is an offence.
You were still exposing yourself.
But
Yeah.
urinating against the wall.
Depends what direction you're facing. Yeah.
But can I just say, these often these people, when you're in court and you're saying that you are aware that the defendant is an alcohol dependent and may have, or very probably has associated other medical conditions like mental health and or is ex-forces, or they have a whole range of difficulties, and you're saying we want a criminal behaviour order that prevents them from entering the PSPO. Bearing in mind that I spent all afternoon on Friday getting one to not allow somebody to go into Bideford PSPO, Ilfracombe PSPO and Barnstable PSPO areas. And then you have the bench saying, where are they allowed to go? Bearing in mind, they have to have a drink.
Yeah. No, I'm fully aware that there are a multiple sort of, aspects to it all, but I'm just wondering if somebody is a perpetual offender, and urinating in public, where, legally,
Yeah, and I accept that that is unacceptable and it should be reported to the police. That is unacceptable. And it is a breach of the PSPO as well. And the defendant I dealt with on Friday afternoon was in various forms of undress all over the place, including Bicklescombe Park, and also and so, you know, there is a very significant a criminal behaviour order to prevent him. Kate's hopefully probably serving him this morning, hopefully. And so, you know, we are doing it. I think it's about educating the public. Unfortunately.
There are always going to be odd cases, aren't there? And as long as the general direction is less, then it's working, isn't it? You know. So.
And there was just one item on the antisocial behaviour in Barnstable High Street. I've noticed things have, you know, really improved with the street marshals and everything, but we do seem to find bedding and whatever strewn on the streets. Now they're very clever, because if they've got an order on them for it to be the high street, so they will put their bedding just in off of Butchers Row, Holland Walk, Joy Street. But on a Saturday, they are not there because they're not meant to be there, but their bedding is strewed across. And I just wonder whether you could feed that back. It's, you know, it's in our high street, it's filthy dirty, and it's just left there. And then people that pushchairs, mobility scooters are having to go in, around, and it really looks a mess when they just leave it there. I don't know.
I'll certainly make inquiries about that. It's about, so I know that sometimes it's moved, sometimes, and I'm wondering why sometimes it isn't moved, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, would you want to touch it? You would want to touch it.
But it's also their bed.
I know, but we don't want it in the high street, do we? You know, you know,
no, and it's got to be
doorways. It's just, but that is their home, and it's a very difficult situation. But I don't know where we can go with it.
Well, I think we're doing what we can at the
Yeah.
moment.
Is there a place it would be taken so they know it would be binned up somewhere where they could retrieve it?
Okay, the Freedom Centre.
Because
Right.
yeah, but then is that where it goes?
I think they give it to say that, you know, this needs
Sometimes
to
they
be-
hang it
Yeah.
up.
It's thrown away.
Well, it will be thrown away, but there will be
Right.
replacement stuff. From the Freedom
Okay,
Centre.
okay, fine.
So if
Yeah,
they
yeah.
needed another taken back
Yeah.
to them. then it will be
Okay.
provided.
Okay. Right, any more questions? Right, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for your report, Tim.
Thank you.
Right, item 8 then, alternative arrangements for the appointment of subcommittees 2026. Report by Corporate and Community Services Officer.
It wasn't actually by myself, but it's just to confirm that it's just to set up who will be the members of the subcommittees A through to E. The appendix A actually sets out the delegated powers involved, and appendix B is the membership.
Yeah.
But just to
Everyone's seen that? Be proposed, agreed, if everyone's happy. Okay.
So you see the recommendations there, 2.1 to 2.5. Hopefully those online have got their own copy. I'll have to read all that out. So could I have a proposer, please? Councillor Hayward Booth, and seconder Councillor Youssef, and all those in favour of the recommendations?
With gender mix on there as well.
Yeah, that's unanimous. Thank you, I believe that's the last item. Meeting closed.